The fifth time the villainous parents arrived at the orphanage to adopt a child. I pushed the female protagonist aside and stepped forward to introduce myself. Greetings, Auntie and Uncle. I am the most obedient child in our orphanage. The comments section erupted in laughter. Haha, how did this little devil spring forth? Just the day before yesterday, he had a showdown with a local tyrant, and yesterday, he hung the headmaster's wig on the flagpole. At the age of 7, he is unmatched within the orphanage. Even dogs passing by must bow their heads. If this little devil is adopted, won't the villain's family soar to the heavens? I'm in stitches, but this must be the 5th attempt at conquest initiated by the female protagonist, right? Indeed, the previous 4 attempts to reform the villain had failed. That wretched child still brought ruin to this world. I was obliterated beyond recognition. As the cycle repeats for the 5th time, I can no longer endure. Since reformation proves futile, I might as well take matters into my own hands. After all, I possess some skill in martial arts. 1. This marks the 5th occurrence. Upon the swift opening of my eyes, I find myself back at the orphanage, disturbing an ant hill once more. I anticipated the commencement of the 5th strategy. 2. Precisely at 1,135 seconds, the familiar black sedan glided to a halt before the orphanage. The door swung open, and the antagonistic parents emerged. The gentleman was clad in a sharp suit, while the lady exuded grace and warmth. The headmaster approached with a smile as radiant as a blooming flower. Ah, Mr. and Mrs. Zhou have arrived. Mrs. Zhou nodded and smiled. Where is the child? In the corridor, Jian, the female protagonist, made her entrance, donning a quintessentially sweet smile. This time, before she could reach the antagonistic parents, I discarded the twig in my hand and dashed forward to greet them. Hello, Uncle and Aunt. I am the most obedient child in our orphanage. The headmaster's expression resembled one who had just tasted something unpleasant. I cheerfully tugged at Mrs. Zhou's skirt. I can serve tea, sing songs, and tell stories. If you wish to adopt a daughter, please consider adopting me. I am very obedient. Only I could perceive the barrage of comments that appeared anew. Ha ha ha. How did this little rascal jump out? Just the day before, I had defeated the little tyrant of the orphanage and hung the headmaster's wig on the flagpole. At 7 years old, I am invincible in the orphanage. Even dogs passing by must bow their heads. Headmaster, look into my eyes and repeat that again. Say it again. The female lead is stealing my lines, huh? If this little rascal is taken home by the antagonists, their household will surely ascend to the heavens. I am already looking forward to it. Mrs. Zhou bent down, gazing at me with tender eyes. Of course, you can. But there is also a little brother at home. I beamed. I will take good care of my little brother, mother. Jian, standing behind me, wore a face full of confusion. I excused myself to tidy up some old clothes and returned to the dormitory. Jian caught up to me, her arms crossed as she scrutinized me thoroughly. Who are you? I turned my head, my tone calm. I am the passerby who, after 4 unsuccessful attempts to reform the antagonist, ended up obliterated. She appeared somewhat taken aback. You have memories? Not only do I possess memories, but I can also see barrage comments from dimensions unknown. I know you are the female lead, I stated earnestly. However, your 4 failed attempts to reform him indicate that the antagonist is simply impervious to such tactics. Jian asked, what do you plan to do? I revealed a smile reminiscent of an antagonist. Oh, I have a few martial skills. Jian pondered for a mere 3 seconds before solemnly patting my shoulder. All right. Just remember to include me when the time comes, and don't hold back. Thus commenced the 5th strategy initiated by the female lead. 3. The Zhou family's villa was vast yet desolate. As I held hands with Mrs. Zhou, now to be referred to as mother, and walked into the living room, a rubber ball plummeted from the 2nd floor towards me. I tilted my head to evade it. The ball was deflated. A little boy appeared at the staircase, strikingly handsome, dressed in an exquisite shirt with slightly curled hair. He regarded me with a cold, scrutinizing gaze. Mother glared at him. Xiaofeng, how could you throw a ball at someone? I leisurely picked up the ball and smiled at Mother. It's fine, Mother. My little brother enjoys playing with balls, and I can keep him company. Mother sighed. Mo, your brother has a bit of an antisocial personality. You must keep a close watch on him, all right? I replied affirmatively, okay. I ascended the stairs and delivered the ball to Zhou Linfeng, leaning down to whisper gently in his ear. Since you initiated this, Don't come crying to me later. During dinner, Zhou Linfeng deliberately dumped all the bones he had eaten into my bowl. I did not flinch. Beneath the table, I stamped on the front of his slipper with considerable force. Zhou Linfeng winced in pain but, recalling my earlier words, restrained himself from retaliating. I meticulously extracted the bones. He repeated the act. I stepped on him again. After 3 cycles of this, his lips turned pale from the pain, and he finally settled down. I smiled sweetly and offered him a piece of meat. Eat more, little brother. That night, as I pulled back the covers to sleep, I discovered a cauliflower snake on the bed, prompting a chuckle for me. The following day, I placed a cobra on Zhou Linfeng's bed. That evening, I heard a brief scream from the neighboring room. I pushed open his door. Oh, need help, little brother? He glared at me fiercely, his expression akin to that of a predator. Get out. If you want me to leave, doesn't that mean I'd lose face? I strolled leisurely to his bedside, seized the cobra with precision, and swiftly snapped its neck. I shook my head. What a waste. Zhou Linfeng clenched his teeth, momentarily unsure whether I was referring to the snake or him. Did the snake not have anyone to voice for me? Snake. So, I am merely a pawn for you to assert dominance? 4. Zhou Linfeng was evidently not one to concede defeat easily. On the 3rd day, he cast my beloved doll into the pond in the backyard, watching me with a taunting expression. I had initially cherished that doll, but after 4 cycles, my heart felt like that of a 23-year-old adult. Hence, my affection for the doll had long since dissipated. However, I could not simply let this pass. Thus, I ascended the stairs, guided by the barrage, and retrieved Zhou Linfeng's prized racing car model. His expression shifted dramatically. You dare? I turned back, a slight smile gracing my lips as I released my grip. Splash! Zhou Linfeng bared his teeth and charged at me. I sidestepped, swiftly kicking him into the pond. Retrieve it. The water level was low, barely reaching his shoulders. Zhou Linfeng angrily fumbled around for his racing car for what felt like an eternity. Just as he was about to emerge, I lifted my foot, poised to kick again. And mine, too. He was on the verge of losing his temper. However, with our parents absent and the maid I had dismissed, he had no choice but to return and search for an extended period once more. When our parents returned, Zhou Linfeng had just finished bathing. I was helping him dry his hair. Mother looked on with a satisfied expression. You 2 siblings are growing closer. Unbeknownst to her, Zhou Linfeng was gripping my calf tightly while I was firmly tugging at his hair. Neither of us would yield. On the surface, we appeared obedient, but behind the scenes, we were at war. Yet he was typically on the receiving end of the beatings. In several encounters, he had failed to gain the upper hand. Zhou Linfeng finally settled down. On the weekend, when Mother took me shopping for clothes, he insisted on tagging along. I knew this little rascal was up to no good. As soon as Mother went to the restroom, Zhou Linfeng leaned over to me. Sister, I want to drink milk tea. I led him to the milk tea shop. Outside the shop stood 3 suspicious-looking men. Human traffickers, human traffickers. Zhou Linfeng has summoned human traffickers. No, I haven't finished watching the confrontation between the little rascal and the antagonist yet. The traffickers lurked around, and Zhou Linfeng nudged my waist. Farewell, dear sister. The next moment, 3 men rushed towards me, intent on capturing me. Yet, I am far from a delicate young girl. I swiftly seized Zhou Linfeng's arm and yanked him forward, thrusting him into the clutches of the trafficker. The trafficker was momentarily bewildered. I shouted, Trafficker! Trafficker! He has taken my brother. Instantly, numerous eyes turned in our direction. The trafficker, disregarding everything, scooped up Zhou Linfeng and fled. Zhou Linfeng, thrown over his shoulder, stared at me with wide eyes. No villain has ever dared to treat me this way. Never. The trafficker, for my sake, I am a victim of forced trafficking. I smiled sweetly at Zhou Linfeng and formed the words with my lips. Farewell, my foolish brother. Zhou Linfeng was eventually retrieved. A police car wailed as it arrived at the Zhou family's villa. I dashed forward faster than my parents, inadvertently smearing tears and snot all over Zhou Linfeng. Oh, brother, you scared me to death. My eyes were misty with genuine emotion. Zhou Linfeng gradually pried my hands away and, in a low, gritted voice, muttered, Zhou Mo, you really know how to act. The comments floated by at the perfect moment. Ha ha, It seems the villain wants to kick the magic ball to death. If he can't, that's quite the magic ball. During dinner, my mother glanced at me. "Mo, what happened today?" I set down my chopsticks, my expression serious, yet tinged with apprehension. "Mom, after you went to the restroom, my brother said he wanted bubble tea. I took him to buy it, but suddenly a few uncles rushed out to grab me. My brother stepped up to protect me. Whoa, brother, so brave." Zhou Linfeng nearly choked on his food. My mother patted his back. "Good boy, protecting your sister now." My father praised. "Well done. You are quite the man." This meal really choked me. Life continued in a tumultuous yet affectionate manner between us siblings. Zhou Linfeng clearly did not abandon his mischievous intentions. However, his methods had escalated. Before my math competition in elementary school, he would carelessly dip my admission ticket into his cup of water. In middle school, during my speech competition, he altered my PPT, inserting a plethora of comical memes, hoping to see me embarrass myself. Alas, I effortlessly defused each situation. After a few instances, Zhou Linfeng's gaze towards me transformed, from initial anger and resentment to eventual admiration. The comments were thoroughly entertained. Daily question: did the villain defeat the magic ball today? Their daily antics are even more riveting than palace intrigue. Time flew by, and Zhou Linfeng and I entered high school. On the first day at Qingcheng No. 1 High School, in a secluded alley behind the teaching building, a group of upperclassmen surrounded a frail boy, shoving him and uttering vile threats. "Where's the money I gave you? Dare to refuse, huh?" The boy in the center trembled, tears pooling in his eyes. I was merely passing by, intending to buy a bottle of water, but in the crowd, I spotted a familiar figure pushing his way in. Oh, it was my foolish brother. Zhou Linfeng had never been one to meddle in others' affairs. Upon witnessing the scene in the alley, he turned expressionless, ready to walk away. But I, on the other hand, could not resist intervening. In that split second as he turned, I accurately kicked him in the rear. Zhou Linfeng stumbled forward into the group of students, and the atmosphere fell silent. The bullied boy's eyes lit up, and in a flash, he darted behind Zhou Linfeng. Now, I had no choice but to get involved. I smiled encouragingly from the sidelines. "Go for it, brother. You've always been the kind-hearted one. Can't stand the strong bullying the weak." The upperclassmen, upon hearing this, shot Zhou Linfeng displeased looks. Ultimately, Zhou Linfeng was compelled to step up to the challenge. I must admit, after all these years under my influence, he had developed some skills. 1 against 5, and he held his ground. I watched with great interest from the sidelines, occasionally offering pointers. "Kick his knee on the left. Oh, too slow. Nice one, that right hook was splendid." While Zhou Linfeng fought, he cursed at me. "If you weren't dead, come over and help. I'm really done for. Can you please shut up? You're so annoying." True to his villainous nature, Zhou Linfeng was quick on his feet. Seeing he was outmatched, he latched onto the ringleader and fought fiercely. In the end, the group fled in disarray, and he leaned against the wall, panting heavily. His school uniform torn, his backpack missing a strap, his hair a mess, and his face and hands marked with bruises. He looked quite disheveled. The bullied boy cautiously approached him, pulling out a tissue from his pocket. "Thank you." Zhou Linfeng paid him no mind and limped away. I walked over, accepted the tissue, and patted the boy's shoulder. "Next time you get bullied, remember to find Zhou Linfeng. He's the most kind-hearted." The boy expressed his gratitude repeatedly. That evening, I marched into Zhou Linfeng's room with a medical kit in hand. He was inspecting a cut on his lip in front of the mirror. Upon hearing the noise, he immediately set his hands down, his expression cold. "Get out." I waved the iodine in my hand. "I'm here to treat your wounds." "No need." He turned his face away. I approached and pressed him down into the chair. "Which time have I not treated your injuries since childhood? Stop pretending." He struggled briefly, but I was stronger, and he couldn't break free, only glaring at me with gritted teeth. As the cotton swab touched his lip wound, he furrowed his brows tightly. I deliberately pressed harder. "Now you feel pain, huh? You were quite the hero during the fight." He glared at me fiercely. "If you hadn't kicked me, I wouldn't have gotten beaten." Cough, cough. I dipped the swab in more medicine. "I'm giving you a chance to be a hero." Zhou Linfeng's expression soured further. I said, "I don't want to be." I raised an eyebrow, continuing to treat the scrapes on his hands. The room fell silent. the only sound being the gentle swish of the cotton swab against his skin. This scene is surprisingly warm. Am I seeing things? The magic ball-esque caregiving skills are quite proficient.
Ha.
After 4 cycles, I had played the roles of nurse, kindergarten teacher, caregiver, and now a housekeeper. Yet, how could I be inexperienced? Upon finishing the treatment, I earnestly said, "Brother, next time if you can't handle it, just call for your sister. As long as you call for me, I will definitely help you." He remained expressionless. Help them beat me? My image in his mind had fallen to such a low point. This wouldn't he do. I needed to salvage it. I looked deeply into his eyes. "No matter how at odds we may be at home," I declared, "Zhou Linfeng, I will always be your sister. In front of outsiders, I will unconditionally stand by you." Well, at home, that was another matter entirely. He, feeling my gaze, awkwardly turned his head away. So cheesy. Observing his slightly flushed ears, I stood up, pleased. If being cheesy had its effect, then so be it. Zhou Linfeng became renowned for his battle prowess. The boy he saved was named Chen Liang and became Zhou Linfeng's little follower. For half a month, rain or shine, he brought Zhou Linfeng breakfast. Initially, Zhou Linfeng couldn't be bothered to acknowledge him, tossing the food into the trash. After a week, perhaps he grew tired of that, allowing him to leave it on the table. Occasionally, when hungry, he would even take a bite. Chen Liang was invigorated, calling him Brother Zhou every day. Later on, someone bullied Chen Liang. Zhou Linfeng would saunter over to his side, silently staring at the aggressor. The latter would scurry away, with his tail between his legs. I understood that he was supporting Chen Liang, and it brought me great comfort. This stubborn child, Zhou Linfeng, had finally found a friend of his own age. I believed our days would flow peacefully henceforth. Under my guidance, Zhou Linfeng was evidently on the path of becoming a good boy. Given this, I felt free to relax. However, to my dismay, during the second semester of our senior year, the Zhou family went bankrupt. In a single night, a stock plummeted, leading to the company's collapse. The news of the Zhou family's downfall spread swiftly throughout the entire southern city. Banks demanded repayment, and suppliers clamored for their debts. Those who had once been friendly with the Zhou family now avoided them like the plague. My parents seemed to age a decade overnight. My father busied himself outside, desperately searching for a glimmer of hope, while my mother forced herself to manage the visitors with tears still fresh in her eyes. The atmosphere at home became suffocatingly oppressive. Zhou Linfeng, too, grew increasingly silent. As he watched the people knocking on the door, an endless fury often surged in his eyes. I recognized the inherent flaws in his character. Under such tremendous upheaval and provocation, he was stirring restlessly.
Sigh.
I gazed skyward, feeling speechless. I had just managed to slightly reform this little antagonist, and now, a bankruptcy turmoil had sent us back to square one. The comments online reflected the tension. Oh no. Is the antagonist going to turn evil? Actually, a non-evil little antagonist is quite adorable. In such an environment, anyone would go mad. When yet another debt collector hurled extremely insulting words at my father, Zhou Linfeng abruptly clenched his fists and stood up. I swiftly stepped forward to restrain his hand. "Don't cause trouble for Mom and Dad. For heaven's sake, if you hit someone, our family's financial situation would worsen." He gritted his teeth but ultimately returned to the sofa. News of the Zhou family's downfall soon reached school. Zhou Linfeng was not well liked, and those he had either scorned or reprimanded gathered together. As we left school, a few figures blocked our path. The leader, holding a basketball, wore a face that openly displayed malice. "Oh, isn't this young Master Zhou? Your family has gone bankrupt, yet you still have the heart to attend school?" he mocked. Before he finished speaking, he hurled the basketball fiercely towards Zhou Linfeng's face. Everything happened too quickly. I instinctively leaped forward to shield Zhou Linfeng. The basketball struck my head solidly. It didn't hurt much, just left me feeling a bit dazed.
Chumontak.
Zhou Linfeng's expression changed dramatically as he reached out to support me, his gaze turning fierce as he looked at the group. "Zhou Linfeng." I grasped his wrist tightly. "Calm down. Mom and Dad are already on the brink." His breath was heavy, veins pulsing at his temples. The muscles in the arm I held were taut as stone. I could feel the urge within him to obliterate everything raging wildly. "They're asking for death." He spat those words through clenched teeth. I understood, I really did. I wanted to deal with those brats too, but the immediate question was whether I could first get to the hospital. I lowered my voice. Do you want mom and dad to worry about the company and then also have to deal with you getting into fights? That statement felt like a bucket of cold water dousing him. The madness in Zhou Linfeng's eyes slightly receded. The thugs, seeing we didn't dare to retaliate, became even more arrogant. I pulled Zhou Linfeng along, leaving the school in silence amidst their jeering laughter. The comments online were filled with sympathy. Alas, the tiger has fallen to the ground and is being bullied by dogs. I really want to go to the hospital first, brother. This is reality. Once bankrupt, anyone can trample on you. After leaving the school, I headed straight to the hospital. Once I arrived at the entrance, I collapsed and fell asleep. Youth is wonderful. One can just sleep anywhere. Is there a possibility that I actually fainted? When I awoke, it was pitch black outside. Zhou Linfeng sat silently beside my bed, peeling an apple. Upon seeing me awake, his hand paused momentarily. Yet, instead of expressing gratitude, he said, I don't need you to shield me. I could have dodged. I rolled my eyes, nearly fuming again. I snatched the apple he had peeled and took a fierce bite. Fine. Next time I'll block for you. You're my father. He fell silent. The atmosphere grew heavy once more. Observing the awkward yet proud child before me, I sighed. Ultimately, he was still just a child. Xiao Feng. I am your sister. Though not by blood, I promised our parents the day they adopted me, I continued, that I would take good care of you. He turned his head away. I don't need it. This obstinate child. I chose to ignore him. Crunching on the apple, I pondered the Zhou family's downfall. I needed to devise a way to earn some money. Otherwise, living expenses would become a problem. To repay their debts, my parents sold our villa and all valuable possessions, moving me and Zhou Linfeng into a dilapidated rental house. During this period, my parents appeared significantly worn out, yet they did not complain. Soon, they found jobs at a nearby factory, leaving early and returning late. Zhou Linfeng, who had previously been indifferent towards his studies, changed his attitude considerably after this incident. He studied late into the night every day. Even the antagonist recognized the importance of hard work. What reason did I have to slack off? I sought out Jian Dan. In the 4 cycles I had experienced, she always seemed to find a way to survive in this world. When I found her, she was surrounded by admirers in a private room, a row of male models performing dances for her. I was taken aback. Isn't this the stark contrast between the heroine and the bystanders? When would I have a line of male models dancing for me? Jian Dan smiled brightly. Oh, a rare guest. She waved her hand, dismissing everyone. I sat down before her and got straight to the point. Why did the Zhou family go bankrupt so early? In the previous 4 cycles, the Zhou family had indeed gone bankrupt, but not so completely, and it occurred after Zhou Linfeng took over the company. Jian Dan shook her head. I really don't know, but I suspect it has something to do with you. Ah. I pointed to myself. Me? Jian Dan's expression turned serious. In the 4 cycles, I always tried to warm Zhou Linfeng's heart, but he seemed to resist that and became even more obsessive. This time, it seems your approach has genuinely altered him to a certain extent, prompting the timeline to react by hastening the Zhou family's bankruptcy and thrusting him back onto his original path. Do you understand what I mean? I grasped it. The Zhou family's bankruptcy was a consequence of my actions. Jian Dan seemed to sense my thoughts. Don't blame yourself. The Zhou family was bound to go bankrupt. It was merely a matter of when. As long as we can ultimately steer Zhou Linfeng right, whether the world collapses or the family goes bankrupt is inconsequential. This was indeed true. Once Zhou Linfeng awakened, with a mere thought, the world would distort and vanish in an instant. I held my forehead. At what age does he awaken? Jian Dan replied, unknown. His 4 awakening points are different each time, but they're all around the age of 24. So, there are still 6 years left. Ahem. Feeling a bit awkward, I asked, could I borrow some money? Returning home late at night, my parents had not yet returned, and the light in Zhou Linfeng's room was still on. I pushed open his door. He was leaning against the window, reading. Where have you been? He asked. I forced a smile. I went to make some money. He scrutinized me from head to toe. Did you go rob someone? I grinned, so you guessed it. He looked exasperated. Zhou Mo, stop causing trouble for mom and dad. I parted my lips to respond. For the first time, I found myself at a loss for a retort. Understood. He turned back, engrossed in his book with a serious demeanor. I clenched my fists tightly. The final months of high school flew by in a flurry of busyness and oppression. On the day the college entrance exams concluded, I stepped out of the examination hall and exhaled a long sigh, gazing at the overcast sky. Zhou Linfeng followed silently behind me. When the results were released, I found myself failing to make the cut, while Zhou Linfeng had performed admirably, securing a place at a prestigious university in a neighboring city. That evening, in the cramped living room of our rented apartment, my parents held Zhou Linfeng's admission notice with pride and relief. Yet he remained silent. After a long pause, he stood up and declared, "I won't be attending." My parents were taken aback. "With such excellent grades, how can you not go?" Zhou Linfeng retorted. "There's no point in going if I don't want to." Before he could finish, my father stood up and struck him hard across the face. In an instant, Zhou Linfeng's cheek flushed crimson. My father's hand trembled as he exclaimed, "Your mother and I have spent so much to support your education. And you say you don't want to go? Zhou Linfeng, how can you be so ungrateful when your mother works tirelessly in the factory before dawn?" That night, an unprecedented argument erupted in our home. In truth, I understood Zhou Linfeng's perspective. He feared the immense pressure on our parents, burdened with debts while supporting his education. At 10 p.m., I cautiously pushed open his bedroom door. He lay curled up on his bed, facing away from me. I sat down beside him in silence. After a long moment, he murmured, "Am I useless?" I originally planned to strive for a scholarship, but it ended in failure. So that was it. If he had secured a scholarship, our parents would have been relieved of the financial burden. I comforted him. "You're already quite impressive, even more so than your sister." "Your sister didn't even get into college," he replied. He fell silent for a while before saying, "Zhou Mo, I'm not like our parents." "I know you did it on purpose," I replied, a little taken aback. The room fell silent, save for the occasional sound of cars outside. Indeed, I had acted with intent. Our family could not afford 2 college students. Thus, I deliberately answered fewer questions, ensuring my failure. This way, I could work without raising any objections. Our parents were already burdened with significant debts. I didn't want them to worry about my tuition fees. I sighed, "Therefore, you absolutely cannot give up. Xiaofeng, you are our sole hope." Initially, I intended to teach this little antagonist a lesson. Even if the world ultimately met its end, my actions would serve as a form of retribution. Yet, after 18 years of coexistence, I had indeed come to regard him as family. I wished for his well-being and a bright future, despite his constant defiance and stubbornness. In the end, Zhou Linfeng went to university, while I remained in Nan City. On the day I boarded the train, he asked if I regretted my decision. I laughed and kicked him playfully. "Just get lost." Zhou Linfeng had embarked on his university journey, while I stayed in Nan City, working at a milk tea shop. When he called, his tone was somewhat disgruntled. "Why are you shaking milk tea there when you could be doing it here with me?" "It's not impossible," I replied, winking. "Just call me sister first." He hung up. TSK. That troublesome boy. I stayed in Nan City because I anticipated something unfortunate would befall my parents. Following the cyclical pattern, they were destined to pass away within 2 years. Their departure would sever Zhou Linfeng's remaining ties to this world. Therefore, this time, I would not allow it. During the day, I shook milk tea, and each evening upon returning home, I incessantly reminded my parents, "Be cautious, check your food safety." They had grown weary of my admonitions, their initial gratitude giving way to exasperation. "Mo, Mom and Dad truly understand. You don't need to keep saying it." Meanwhile, after leaving home, Zhou Linfeng seemed to have developed a sudden longing for family, frequently calling with inquiries about everything. It was quite awkward. Occasionally, comments would drift through the online commentary. Observing him, the antagonist seems rather low profile at school. He reportedly received a scholarship. He must be quite smart. However, he gives off a colder aura, a vibe that warns strangers to keep their distance. Without the magical orb, it seems he's lonely, without anyone to duel with. Loneliness, I believed, was something he needed to confront. After 6 months of tranquil days, an unexpected calamity struck when I let my guard down. A green light at the crosswalk. A massive truck. The 2 vehicles appeared to have lost control, barreling towards us. Time seemed to stretch infinitely. I could see my mother's eyes widen in horror, while my father instinctively pulled both of us behind him. In that moment, my body reacted faster than my mind. With all my strength, I pushed my parents aside forcefully. Bang! A deafening crash reverberated, and excruciating pain engulfed me in an instant. In that fleeting moment, a myriad of images flashed through my mind. I seemed to witness countless faces and events. In the first cycle, I was a nurse, bustling between hospital wards, witnessing the cycles of life and death. After work, I would return to an empty rented room, staring blankly at the wall. In the second cycle, I became a kindergarten teacher, surrounded by a group of chattering children, endearing in their innocence. Yet, the silence after school was even more haunting. In the third cycle, I worked as a caregiver, tending to an irritable elderly person as he rambled about his past. In the stillness of the night, I felt no different from them. In the fourth cycle, I served as a nanny for a wealthy family, observing their warmth and cheer, feeling like a mere shadow. Each time, I was alone. The world was a dull gray, and no one cared for me, nor did I care for anyone. Living was merely existing, until I reached the orphanage, where my mother gently squatted before me. Of course, you can, but we have a younger brother at home. Then came Zhou Linfeng's mischievous face, pouring bones into my bowl and placing snakes on my bed, attempting to sell me to human traffickers. Life was chaotic and restless, yet amidst this chaos, my world transformed into vibrant colors. My mother would sternly admonish Zhou Linfeng not to bully me, while my father would share his poorly timed jokes at the dinner table, trying to ease the tension between Zhou Linfeng and me. At night, I would grip Zhou Linfeng's neck, forcing him to complete his homework. He would take the opportunity to draw turtles on my face while I slept. Occasionally, we would be punished together for misdeeds, yet even during punishment, he would kick me, and I would retaliate. I realized I was no longer alone. I had a family. Was this why these fleeting images appeared before me? After a long time, I thought I heard a faint sigh. The voice seemed to belong to Zhou Linfeng, yet it felt different. He said, "Fool." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself staring at the hospital ceiling, the scent of antiseptic filling my nostrils. "Mo, you're awake." My mother's voice, laced with tears, reached my ears. My father's bloodshot eyes brimmed with both fear and relief as he croaked, "As long as you're awake, that's good." I turned my head, taking a moment to focus. Someone sat by my bedside. It was Zhou Linfeng. His hair was disheveled, and dark circles marred his eyes, a clear sign of sleepless nights. He gripped my hand tightly, the one not connected to the four, his grip so fierce it felt as though he might crush my bones. "Zhou, he rasped. "Do you think you're very brave?" I attempted a smile, but my whole body ached. "I suppose I'm just average, a tad braver than you." He pressed his lips together, his grip tightening further. Be gentle, I winced. "Your sister is currently an injured party." Mother hurriedly stepped forward to mediate, Xiaofeng. "Do not hurt your sister." Only then did Zhou Linfeng release his grip, yet his gaze remained firmly fixed on my face. "The doctor stated you have 3 broken ribs, a fractured left leg, and a mild concussion." His tone was as harsh as stone. I scoffed, "Merely minor injuries." He rolled his eyes and was about to strike me when Mother intervened. "All right, Xiaofeng, let your sister rest." Father, with reddened eyes, gently patted my head. "Silly child. You mustn't do this again. If anything were to happen to you, your father and I would never forgive ourselves." I looked at them, yet deep down, I knew the truth. If given another chance, I would undoubtedly act the same way. Regardless of our lack of blood ties, in my heart, I had long regarded them as my true family. Zhou Linfeng took a week's leave to stay at the hospital and care for me. This was nothing short of astonishing, for in my memory, this young master could barely look after himself. "Aren't you returning to school?" "I've taken a leave of absence," he replied without lifting his head. "Will you keep up with your studies? Do you think I am like you?" Humph. However, the following days became even more shocking. Zhou Linfeng not only stayed by my bedside daily but also personally fed me, wiped my face, and assisted me in walking. One night, I couldn't help but grasp his collar. "Who exactly are you? Return my true brother to me." He shrugged off my hand, utterly speechless. "Jumontak. If I gave you 3 colors, would you open a dye house?" "I am your father." Indeed, this was my brother. That orchestrated car accident served as a wake-up call, irrevocably transforming Zhou Linfeng. During my recuperation on the hospital bed, Aside from caring for me, he devoted nearly all his energy to tracking down the perpetrator. I was unaware of the methods he employed, but he managed to uncover the very individual that even Uncle Mao could not trace. This person was a former competitor of the Zhou family who had reaped numerous benefits following the family's downfall. As the Zhou family began to prosper once more, their envy turned to madness, culminating in their attempt to commit murder. Once Zhou Linfeng discovered the culprit, true to his nature, he would ensure they suffered immensely. Yet, that would be illegal, and I felt a pang of concern. Since Dad and Mom weren't injured, why not leave it to the police? You shouldn't take matters into your own hands. He paused, turning his head to look at me. And you? It took me a moment to realize he was inquiring about my well-being. With a smile, I replied, I'm tough. I can handle it. He hesitated, ultimately leaving with a stern expression. Zhou Linfeng followed my advice, refraining from violent retaliation, at least not overtly. He calmly gathered evidence, unearthing financial fraud, illegal transactions, and even more sordid dealings with remarkable clarity. When I finally managed to stand with the aid of crutches, the news reported that the business tycoon had been sentenced to prison, facing a substantial amount of money involved and a lengthy prison term. I glanced at Zhou Linfeng, who was expressionless as he peeled an apple beside me. Little brother, you have finally grown up. He skillfully cut the apple into small pieces without raising his eyes. Only you think I am still a child. The comments erupted in cheers. What was this awakening? When had it occurred? To my surprise, it did not lead to the world's destruction. I considered it a success. Subsequently, Zhou Linfeng seemed to be on a roll. He collaborated with several like-minded technological prodigies from various universities to develop some AI algorithm model, securing astonishing venture capital. The company was quietly established, and business flourished rapidly. The debts that once suffocated us were swiftly repaid, and we moved out of that dilapidated rental into a spacious and bright apartment. The worry etched on my parents' faces finally dissipated, replaced by pride and concern in their gazes towards Zhou Linfeng. Life soared like a rocket, and I finally believed he had truly awakened. In summary, it had not resulted in the world's destruction as it had in the previous 4 cycles, proving that he was indeed teachable. Of course, much of the credit belonged to me. Had I not saved my parents, the outcome might have been different. With the crisis averted, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. I turned 24, which felt like an extra year compared to the last cycle. Thanks to Zhou Linfeng, I once again became the esteemed young lady of the Zhou family. As the saying goes, when people acquire wealth, they tend to become greedy. I had not forgotten the scene of the male models lining up to dance for Jiandan. Thus, on a particular night, I ventured to a bar with my card in hand. Dressed in luxury, the manager immediately surrounded me. Bring me your finest male models, I commanded with a wave of my hand. After 2 minutes in the private room, a procession of handsome men entered. The manager's smile was sycophantic. Miss Zhou, please choose. Cough. Jiandan had not deceived me. It was indeed high quality. I settled into a more comfortable position on the sofa. Line up. Whoever dances the best will be chosen. They all danced admirably, and in the end, I selected 5. We drank, played, and reveled in merriment. The models were not only handsome but also attentive to my emotions, far superior to Zhou Linfeng. Why was I thinking of that little brat again? Just as I was having a grand time, the door to the private room was kicked open. I turned to see Zhou Linfeng's expressionless face. His gaze swept over my hand resting on the male model's shoulder, a smile that was more menacing than welcoming curving his lips. Zhou Mo, do you wish to die? Wasn't it a bit excessive to disregard my dignity in front of so many? I stood up defiantly. What do you want? I didn't spend your money. Cough. What my parents provided didn't he count as his money? He approached step by step, and the crowd on the sofa scattered in a panic, fleeing the room. TSK.
No loyalty.
Zhou Linfeng remained impassive. You enjoy drinking, do you? Come home and drink with me. I plopped back down. I refuse. I was furious, clenching my fists, having not fought for months. Yet, I hadn't anticipated that Zhou Linfeng had become so much stronger. As he carried me down the stairs, I struggled in vain. I was forcibly taken outside the bar and shoved into the car. He slammed the door shut and moved to the driver's seat, starting the engine. My anger soared. Zhou Linfeng, are you insane? He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white, his profile taut with tension. Am I the one who is insane?
Wow.
Such a quick admission. I turn my face away in defiance. Even if you catch me today, I will return tomorrow. He had become controlling, dictating my every move. If you have the ability, chain me up. Otherwise, I will come every day. He abruptly slammed on the brakes, the car halting at the roadside. He turned to face me, his eyes swirling with an intensity one had never witnessed before.
Joe Montag, behave yourself.
His voice was low and husky, laced with an almost obsessive intensity. If you push me, I will truly do it. I was taken aback. The comments erupted in a frenzy. What was happening? Did his gaze and words convey the meaning I suspected? He was agitated, jealous even. What was this brotherly bond? This felt more like a narrative driven by overwhelming possessiveness. I had always perceived their relationship as a comedic sibling dynamic, yet it had suddenly taken a turn towards something deeper. I gazed into Zhou Linfeng's eyes, my mind buzzing with confusion. It suddenly dawned on me, after all these years, the inexplicable fury he had often displayed. I recalled the dark expressions he wore each time I interacted with someone of the opposite sex, and his omnipresent desire for control. I had always believed this to be merely a manifestation of our awkward sibling bond. Now, he was telling me it was a facade of fraternal affection. I instinctively recoiled, pressing my back firmly against the car door. Zhou Linfeng, I uttered. You are audaciously rebellious. He observed my startled demeanor, and the wild madness in his eyes gradually receded. As he restarted the vehicle, the ambient sounds returned to a calm state. Home, he commanded. The car's interior fell into a profound silence. Only the barrage of comments continued to flood my vision, the previously overlooked details now vividly resurfacing. It seemed I had inadvertently nurtured a villain in the wrong direction. The following day, I practically fled to Jiandan's house. Upon entering, I found her leisurely sipping red wine. That scoundrel Zhou Linfeng has ulterior motives towards me, she declared, swirling her glass with a smile. Is that so? He is handsome and comes from a good family. You're not at a loss, she added. Sister? This isn't merely a matter of loss, I retorted. I am his sister, for heaven's sake. She raised an eyebrow. Just an adopted one.
Yet.
I had been his sister for 18 years. I truly found it hard to accept. Oh heavens. Jiandan rose from her seat.
Joe Montag.
I am about to venture to another world. She approached and patted my shoulder. So take care. With that, she vanished into thin air, leaving me in a state of utter disarray. Upon returning home, the living room was illuminated solely by a dim floor lamp. Zhou Linfeng lay asleep on the sofa, his tie loosened and brow furrowed. He had been tirelessly occupied with a new project lately, the faint shadows of fatigue evident beneath his eyes. I tiptoed softly, tempted to ascend the stairs, but instead, I picked up a thin blanket nearby and draped it over him. As I leaned down, however, he suddenly seized my wrist. My heart raced. In the next moment, I was spun around, tumbling into his embrace. His crisp scent enveloped me instantly. Let go, I protested, pushing against his chest. He tightened his hold, resting his chin atop my head, his voice hoarse from sleep. Don't move. I am your sister, I insisted. He remained silent, inciting my irritation. And I was tempted to bite him. Our parents are still at home. Just as those words left my lips, I heard soft footsteps from upstairs. My body stiffened, and upon looking up, I caught sight of my parents in their pajamas at the staircase. Our eyes met. In unison, they closed their eyes. Honey, I think I sleepwalked, my father said nonchalantly. Yes, go back to sleep, my mother nodded. They turned and departed as if they hadn't witnessed anything. Ha ha ha, Mom and Dad. It seems we've gone blind. Mom and Dad, we truly tried our best. Closing your eyes won't make the path invisible, I muttered, somewhat exasperated. Zhou Linfeng chuckled softly, the vibrations resonating through his chest and into the thin fabric of his shirt. I felt an overwhelming urge to bury my face in the ground. The comments were in a frenzy, all agreeing with my sentiment. I had truly pressed his buttons. Zhou Linfeng, I said, finally lifting my gaze to confront his strikingly handsome face. I am your sister. After a prolonged silence, he replied, we are merely bound by adoption. Zhou Mo. I have never referred to you as sister. At that moment, I felt a sudden clarity wash over me. He had indeed never called me sister all these years. So, when did this realization begin? I parted my lips, hesitating to speak. He began to soothe my back with gentle strokes, his voice cool and clear as he slowly articulated. I do not know when it began. Perhaps it was when, at 10 years old, you stood defiantly in front of me, confronting another child. Or at 16, when you shielded me from that basketball. Or at 18, when you deliberately failed your exams to send me to college. Or perhaps it was during those birthdays I celebrated quietly, while you remembered each one with clarity. Love unbidden runs deep, and I am but a commoner. Ah, a confession. Love unbidden runs deep, and I am but a commoner. Heavens, this villain is surprisingly eloquent. What do those 4 failures of the female lead even count for? Consider it time well spent. The confession caught me off guard. Yet paired with Zhou Linfeng's exquisite features, it made my heart race intensely. I averted my gaze, my ears flushed crimson. Give me a moment, I implored, needing time to process. Zhou Linfeng playfully tugged at my ear and chuckled.
All right.
That night, I tossed and turned until 3 in the morning. Eventually, I drifted into a long dream. In that dream, I found myself back on the day of the accident. The screeching of brakes, shattering glass, and the sickening crack of bones echoed in my mind. Just before the agonizing pain consumed my consciousness, I realized I was about to die. Then I heard a voice. Not a human voice, but a cold, mechanical tone. Critical subject Zhou Linfeng's consciousness has awakened. Worldline correction procedure initiated. Bystander Zhou Mo's life signs have vanished. Aligning with the predetermined trajectory, soul extraction imminent. I do not permit it. It was Zhou Linfeng's voice.
Yet.
The figure in my dream was not the boy I knew. He stood in a void, enveloped in a disquieting aura, his icy gaze fixed on the emptiness before him. Warning: Zhou Mo is a low-priority bystander. Forcibly reviving her will consume a significant amount of world energy, potentially causing narrative collapse. I say. His words were deliberate, each syllable laced with frost. I will not allow it. The force emanated from him, erupting with a thunderous intensity, shaking the very fabric of the dream. The mechanical voice emitted a jarring static. Energy overload, forced rewriting initiated, revival procedure activated. I jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat, my nightclothes clinging to my skin. So, at some unknown point in time, had I died once more? Had Zhou Linfeng snatched me back from the clutches of a predetermined fate? Did this mean I was no longer a mere bystander in this world? After freshening up, I descended the stairs. At the dining table, Zhou Linfeng was engrossed in his phone. Upon noticing me, he looked up, a subtle smile gracing his lips.
Good morning, Magic Ball.
Epilogue. On the day of awakening, Zhou Mo was on the brink of death. The system declared her to be merely a bystander, her demise preordained. I, Zhou Linfeng, was a villain who actively approached annihilation. In the first 4 instances, a certain Jian Dan emerged from nowhere, fervently claiming she would save me. Her smile was sweet, her methods refined. Each time, she appeared to exert her utmost effort. Yet, I could sense the icy calculations and perfunctory tasks lurking behind her seemingly warm facade. She was weighing the pros and cons. She was performing. Everything she did was to prevent my destruction of the world, not for my sake. Her gaze towards me felt akin to that of a programmer eyeing a bug in need of fixing, a level that needed to be completed. Thus, I never allowed her to succeed. The world continued to crumble beneath my grasp, reduced to dust. But Zhou Mo was different. She was both pretentious and violent, feigning innocence before my parents while being a little tyrant in my presence. I despised her from the moment she stepped through my door, a deceitful little actress. I was infuriated, yet powerless against her. I couldn't overpower her, and she was more adept at playing the victim. During that time, my sole ambition was to drive her out of my home. I even sought the assistance of human traffickers to make her disappear entirely. In response, she turned the tables and sold me instead. When I was retrieved, she wept with profound sincerity. I was utterly astonished. How could there exist such unabashed audacity in this world? Unlike Jian Dan, who endeavored to sway me with love and warmth, she wielded her fists. It was a matter of tit for tat, an eye for an eye. Yet, paradoxically, within this unadulterated and unabashed malice, I discovered a semblance of authenticity. She struck me, yet simultaneously shielded me. She recalled every minute preference and aversion of mine. In moments when my parents were preoccupied and negligent, She would surreptitiously present me with a small cake. She would deliberately sabotage the college entrance examination to leave the opportunity for me. When calamity struck, she would pull my parents behind her. Had I not been the protagonist, she would have truly perished. She did not weigh the pros and cons. She possessed only sincerity. She made me realize that there are those who care for me not out of obligation, but with genuine affection, treating me as family, despite my awkwardness, my malice, my ingratitude. Thus, for the first time, I broke free from the system, reclaiming her at the fringes of the timeline. What of the bystander? In the realm of Zhou Linfeng, she is the sole sovereign. The origin of love remains a mystery, yet it runs deep. And I am but a mere mortal. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening.
Until we meet again in the next story.